when you go to visit someone in a maximum security prison, it's a real ordeal getting in. And it's really sad. You see families coming in, and it's very emotional. Sometimes there's kids with them. And, you would think as an attorney or as law students, you might get treated a little different. But you come across the wrong CEO, the wrong corrections officer. I don't like the way your shirt, saying to a female student is a little bit too low, or you're not wearing a bra. I mean, it's kind of like really? That's what you're saying? And take your pockets, pull them out. I want to see the bottom of your feet. In any event, we're waiting to get into the visiting room, and all of a sudden there's this loud crash against the door. It's behind bars, and all of a sudden there's a lockdown because an inmate punched a female visitor in the face, and it was the person that was visiting him, and they were rewinding it on the surveillance as we were waiting. So the students were already like, wow, this is some crazy shit. And then we go in the visiting room after they sort of cleared that situation out after 40 minutes or so, and Bruce came down, and he's as cordial as he is intelligent, which is to say he's always just super warm and comforting. And two of the students that had worked on his case for quite a while were in the visiting room with me, and he sort of like blew past them and said, I can't take it anymore. Everywhere I go, every time I see this corrections officer, he is trying to goad me. He is trying to get me to do something. And it was the closest I had seen him to tears because of the prison experience.
This guy still works there?
Absolutely. And it was during a major lockdown where over 200 incarcerated people at Sing Sing were brutalized. It was so bad that they locked the prison down for about a week to bring in a special search team. So when we were called for visits, what they would do was they would have an officer come to your cell, get you, handcuff you, and bring you to the visiting room. I get called for a legal visit. Who decides that they want to be the officer to come and escort me? This officer, John, right, that's had a hard on for me for some reason. He comes. So I'm like, oh, man, I got to visit. Now, this guy's going to handcuff me and take me, so I can't even defend myself because the prison was locked down. And in fact, that was a major New York Times article as well, the abuse that took place at Sing Sing in November of last year when they locked the whole prison down. That's the case that Bruce Barquette and Epstein and Marty Tankleff took on. Big article. They came into the prison, shut it down, and began picking certain guys out, cracking ribs, cracking heads open, just abusing guys. So here this guy comes to get me. I had no idea it was you that was on the visit. But in my mind, I'm saying, I swear I hope it's my lawyer coming to visit me, man, because this guy's taking me. So he's antagonizing me. Hurry up or you won't go on your visit, and just jugging at me. So I'm handcuffed and I'm maintaining my composure. I see a sergeant there. I tell him, listen, man, get your dog off me, man. So the sergeant knew me, and he tried to say something to the guy. But the guy, he listened right then and there. En route to the visiting room, he's steady trying to goad me, trying to pull me out of my character, So it just became so stressful, man. That's why I came down there. I was like, man, I was so glad that it was you that came that day. But I was just glad that he didn't actually because he was on the verge of putting his hands on me. If it was because I was handcuffed. If it was an isolated area, he would have definitely jumped on me because it was open season in November. During that lockdown, it was open season on guys in the joint at Sing Sing that day. For whatever reason, that special team came in and just started like crushing people. And some of these guys, I'm talking about 6'8", 6'9", they're from different prisons. So they come in with their military uniforms and they're stomping. They're stomping the floor like they're doing a walk, like on a military run. And they're pulling guys out the cell, man, and they're crushing them. So it was a moment for me because I had no idea how this guy was going to respond or how I was going to be able to, defend myself. And I knew I'm on the verge of getting out. right? And I know what he's trying to do. So my mind was just focused on getting out, trying my best not to pay this guy no mind, but it's hard. It's hard dealing with them in those situations because they got the upper hand. And a lot of them are abusive because you can do that with them. And like you talked about power, when you can do things knowing that there'll be no repercussions.
Are you aware of the Stanford prison experiment?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Where they took the students and they divided them into correction officers and incarcerated people. And what they did was the officers took on, a group of students took on the role of correction officers, and these group of students took on the role of prisoners. And it became so intense. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It became intense.
Very much so.
The group of students who were acting as playing the role of correction officers became so abusive based on the false sense of power that they literally had to end the study.
Yeah.
They had to end the, they had to stop it.
So what is that? This is the part where I start.
It goes back to power.
Well, yeah, I know. This is the part where it gets me feeling real shitty about humanity, because you see it even in TSA agents. Mm-hmm. You see it in, last night we were going into a place to eat, and I had the audacity to ask again, where do you order from? And the guy was working security at the door. And what a shitty attitude he gave me about it, right? Like, because he's the bouncer. And I was like, 5 or 6 years ago, I learned the strength in silence. Mm-hmm. And I learned the strength in restraint. Because I was...
You're not going to fix that guy. You don't have to respond to him.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not gonna fix it.
I mean, and
he's going to be who he is.
And I've learned from being around people, like you, and you've taught me a lot about, what it means to really listen, and, sort of impressing upon me how important martial arts is, right? And just watching you move. You don't feel like you have to peacock your accomplishments in front of us because you have a sense of
assurance, security, knowing who he is.
Watching guys like James Prince, who is so comfortable with the silence, because he doesn't need to show off. And I learned that it's the insecure among us, it's the weaker among us that will either abuse the power or pop off